recognition a very high priority, where top priorities are COVID, economic recovery, racial equality, inequity.
This is a terrible thing to say, but it's true.
So for the people who are watching this, who perhaps missed our first interview or haven't checked your stuff out yet, could you just quickly reintroduce Anxiety Cat, the project?
Yeah. So Anxiety Cat is me and my cat Pip. It's been a pandemic project, I suppose. I'm not going to call it a solo project because it's me and the cat, but it's basically something that I can do from home and experiment with different mediums within music that I haven't done before. So like digital looping of sound clips and things like that, and then making I don't know, pop songs out of. They're not pop songs, punk songs. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. They're songs that are made out of clips of other things and non-traditional instrumentation, like, you know, smacking a hammer against something and taking a little radio clip and looping it and then building the song out of it. So that's what Anxiety Cat is. Last time we talked, which was a year ago today, I can't believe that. That's
I know.
Nuts.
It's
we didn't
mad.
even plan that because we were gonna have this a couple days ago, but then or something. I kind of double booked. I was like, we actually scooted a few days. So I feel like it was the universe telling us actually do it on June 3rd. This is going to be perfect for you.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, but like when we first talked, I was in the process of releasing the first Anxiety Cat album, which was called The End of Reality as We Know It. And that one was about power structure, international power structures, about the ways in which power came to be in the 21st century, where we're at right now. And so it utilized things like speeches from Muammar Gaddafi and Vladimir Putin and, you know, Donald Trump and stuff like that. And then this new record that I made, it's called Storm Transmissions, and it is it's similar type of music, but the difference is there's no. It's not about power structure. Well, it's about power structure. It's not about political leaders anymore. It's about the 24-hour news cycle now. And so this one, instead of using clips from political leaders, it has clips from my radio, my little bathroom radio. So it'll have clips from the BBC, from NPR, from Democracy Now, and just basically little clips, little pandemic era radio clips of all the stuff that's been happening over the past year. And, songs about that stuff. And so, so that's what Anxiety Cat is basically. My background is in punk music. People probably haven't heard of me before if they see this, but if they have, they would have heard of my punk band, the Taxpayers, was like the most well-known project I've done. And the Taxpayers were like a DIY punk band. That's who I am. That's who Anxiety Cat is.
Awesome.
Pip couldn't make it to the interview. Who's outside right now, sleeping on the porch, but
I mean, yeah. Pip is arguably, as important in the creation of this record, because he is effectively the last thing you hear on the record after listening to it. Yeah, he has quite an important cameo.
He actually does, doesn't he? The very last thing that you hear is him. And by the way, that wasn't a manufactured clip. That's actually how recording goes for everything. So it basically this record ends with Pip just knocking over some microphones and coming in from the rain. He's just soaking wet. And he's like, I'm doing a quiet take. It's like the last song. So it's a quieter song. And so I've got, the microphone's really hot and picking up everything. And like, I'm just like finishing up the take, and he just bursts in the door because he knows how to open the door. Cause I kind of leave it like unlocked. He's just figured out how to come and go as he pleases. So he just bursts open the door. He's soaking wet. And he jumps up on the table and he knocks over a microphone and a can, and that's how that ends. I feel like I have like 30 takes of every song that have just been interrupted by him doing exactly that.
He's like, Rob, buddy, you're naming this cat album. You're naming this album after me, and I'm not on it. You got to put me on it. And at the end, he's just like, I'm putting my paw down. This is it.
Yeah.
So
you're recording. Here I come.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's doing well as yourself. But when we last chatted, I was rewatching the last conversation, and you weren't 100% sure whether or not there would be a second Anxiety Cat record at the time. Was there like a moment, or was there any sort of defining point where you were like, now I got to make the record, or now I want to make it? Was there any point that sort of gave you that inspiration?
There wasn't a specific point. We ended up being stuck at home for a lot longer. And once I get into so I just compulsively make songs, right? And I do it every night. I sit down, or every other night, or every couple nights I sit down and make songs. It's just, I clear my head, I make songs. And I was finding myself, rather than making acoustic songs, I was making more of those Anxiety Cat type of songs. And so, and then because they started ending up slightly different than the last ones, they ended up being really heavy on the radio clips. I was like, well, maybe this would be a good angle of attack for another Anxiety Cat album. I'm going to be stuck around by myself for a while. It's not like I'm going to be starting a band with other people outside of my cat for a while. And so just make another one. I don't know. I mean, really what it was is I ended up having about 4 Anxiety Cat type of songs that I had recorded that I liked. And then I said, you know what, if I really kind of concentrate on what this is turning out to be, I could put something together. And I made a bunch more. And then I kind of just trimmed the fat and got rid of the ones I didn't like. And I just ended up doing that. So yeah, there wasn't a specific point of it. It was just that I had a couple people ask me to do some more. They were like, that's, I get a kick out of that. Are you doing more Anxiety Cat stuff in the future? And like I told you at the time, I was like, I don't know, we'll see what happens. And then by the time I'd had a few people ask me about it, I had kind of had a few more songs in the bank. And once I had enough songs in the bank, it's the nice thing about it is, and this is actually the nice thing about something positive from the pandemic for me has been learning how to just do stuff on my own, take care of it, and just finish it. Mm-hmm. And so that's for like creative stuff specifically I'm talking about, like basically being able to sit down in front of a computer and in front of my piano or my recording software and knock something out and then just release it online. And I'll tell some people about it, just like we're doing right now. I'll send you an email. Hey, Tom, I got another Anxiety Cat record. Let's talk. And then boom. And then I put it out, and it doesn't require me like putting together a band and touring and, finding a record label and getting a publicist and all that kind of stuff. I just am able to kind of sit down and do it all, press record, upload it online, and, collaborate with some friends on it. And then go from there. Oh, I guess I should tell you about this. I don't know that I don't think I told you about this in the email I sent you about this record, but it's going to kind of be a collaboration. Well, it is a collaboration. It's with a buddy of mine, Shannen Muhl, who's he's a visual artist. He does he does visual art, and he's making videos for all of these songs. I think he's got most of them done, but they're kind of like, I want to say like almost kind of Lynchian, kind of David Lynch-esque type of, they're created in a similar way to how the Anxiety Cat songs were created, in that they're like cut-ups of lots of different amorphous things, like stuff from commercials and little phone video clips from pandemic era stuff that me and him and his friends have sent him. And so that is going to be coming out over the course of the summer. Basically, like I was going to release the audio of it, and then in late summer we were going to release the video album version of it. So the reason I say that is, number one, that's an important aspect of it, and then number two, that like when I say that it's something I can do on my own, I only mean the audio part because it's definitely something that's a collaboration with like a friend. And Shannon's a friend of mine who lives in Oregon. So he lives on the other side of the country from me. So that's another positive aspect of the pandemic is I've been able to reconnect with lots of old friends in different corners of the country. Because, you sit down on Zoom and, or you just got time to kind of, reconnect with old friends. So I reconnected with him and, he was like, I'd love to do something with your Anxiety Cat stuff. He originally wanted to make some videos for The End of Reality as We Know It. And I was like, hey man, I'm working on a new record. You want to like collaborate on that? And so, so we've been kind of sussing that out and getting that together as well. So I'll have to send you a link to some of his stuff when we're done here. So you can check it out. He's awesome. He's a really cool artist.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, I think you mentioned on your, the Bandcamp pre-order page for it, that he designed the artwork for the album, which is insanely great. It's such a mesmerizing picture.
Yeah. He's a painter also. And so that's a painting he did. He's multifaceted, multi-talented artist. Like he'll do paintings. He does digital art. He does, like installations. He'll do, just about anything you can imagine. But yeah, he's an old friend of mine, and I'm really excited to be reconnecting with him and kind of working on something together because that painting is something else. It was just, so when we were first talking about doing this, he was dreaming up some different ideas and he was like, hey, do you have an album cover for the new record yet? And I said, no, like I thought I would talk to you about it and see if you had any recommendations or if you knew if you were into putting something together for it. And he was like, I got just the thing in mind. And then he sent me that thing and I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect because it's like, it's this figure, right? And it's this figure and this is how I read it. It's a figure with a mask and it's either taking off this mask or putting on this mask. And I thought it was so, it's such a useful metaphor for what the record is in that it is either the unmasking of whatever all this contemporary news is, almost both the disinformation, misinformation, and actual information colliding all together. The unmasking of it is kind of how I thought about it. I was like, this is really good painting for this specific record. I'm blown away by his work. He's awesome.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's a match made in heaven, that everything's sort of coming together. And the way that sort of I was interpreting the album in my my very fortunate listen to it before it's come out, is that it does feel like a whole time capsule of the past year, or at least the current state of things as they are now. And because it is a time like no other, it's so interesting being able to sort of have this interpretation that captures it in such a unique way. And I'm really excited to see how the visuals complement all the audio as well.
Yeah, super cool. And I think you're right. I honestly, that's a little bit how I was thinking about it when I was putting together that it was sort of like a time capsule. Because, so here's how I live my life. It's kind of weird with the radio thing, but I have radios in like every room, and some of the rooms I'll just keep the radio on kind of low. So that I walk into a room, I kind of hear what's going on. And I don't know why I do that. I started doing it when I was younger, and I don't know, maybe it's like a loneliness thing. You always feel like there's someone around when you've got the radio talking to you, and there's just hearing what's going on in the world. And sometimes at least my partner, she'll be like, how can you listen to the radio like that so much? Like, doesn't that freak you out? Like, just to hear, like there's an earthquake in Mexico City or there's blah, blah, blah. She's like, isn't that overwhelming? And for me, it's kind of comforting because I think about it like it's, I'm up to date on everything. Like I feel like I'm being constantly informed of the status of the world as it comes. And for me, in some ways, like to unplug from that, from this international news is kind of anxiety inducing in itself for me. Like I like to be, informed on what's going on. Obviously, I can't like constantly be doing it because that's a bit much, but it is nice to stay up to date on it. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because like as I would walk into the bathroom and it's playing something. So it's like late at night. So the BBC plays on NPR if it's like 3 a.m. because of our time difference, you know? And so I'll hear what the BBC's take on the day's events are. So I'll take out my phone, I'll record what's coming out of the speaker. And as I was collecting those things, this was before I started making Anxiety Cat songs out of it. I was like, it would be nice to have a time capsule of these little blips from this year. So when you say that it's like a time capsule, I was recording it on my phone and collecting that stuff with the idea that I'd do something with it, some kind of creative project with it at some point. And then I would just end up like, basically I'll email it to myself and then I'll cut it up on my computer into little things and just kind of make a song out of it based on that. So yeah, it was definitely intended to be like a time capsule. I don't know that we want to remember the last year, but you know, now it exists.
Oh yeah, I mean, hopefully there's some lessons to come out of it, but who knows if anyone's gonna heed them? But you mentioned that, but at least again in sort of the way that I've interpreted it, as much as it does deal with some really heavy stuff, the new album, such as the Capitol riots and other things like that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like there was much more of a underlying sense of hope coming through this time around. And I was wondering whether or not you feel that reflects the idea that we are sort of, at least in terms of the pandemic, sort of coming out of the other end of it in some shape or form. Obviously, the world is still very much in a mess in a lot of ways. But do you feel like perhaps the situation reflected in the tone and the themes of the new album?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, probably. I do. I mean, I feel like there's always hope. There's always hope, even pre creating this album, when things were super dark and we didn't know where the pandemic was going to go and where things were. I mean, you know, you had this unfolding authoritarianism that was happening worldwide, this massive disinformation campaigns just dividing nations. There's any number of darkness that you could pinpoint, but like the thing is that you can concentrate on that stuff and you can find nothing but darkness in the world. But then all you really have to do is turn off your fucking phone and your radio and step outside and go talk to your neighbor, and you can find hope there, and like you can go and, go for a walk and you see, new plants being born, and you see baby birds in a nest that were just born. You see kids playing outside. If you look for it, hope's always present. But if you're only concentrating on the darkness, then all you're going to see is darkness, and I definitely am like guilty of only seeing the darkness sometimes when I'm at my most pessimistic. But I guess that's a way of me saying, like, to answer your question, I think that it is in some ways it's more hopeful because it was, some of the songs were created towards the tail end of when maybe the vaccines started getting out and things started opening up more. Like, I don't want to read too much into the election of Joe Biden in the United States, but I mean, certainly getting fucking Donald Trump out of office was a good thing.
Yep.
And so like, it's not that, we have this new savior in office, but I mean, at least one of the dumpster fires got put out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. There was some, on a national level in the United States, we were seeing some good signs come out of things, and I guess locally, so some good things, and the last song on the album is very much meant to be a song of hope. It's in the words about potential and hope and stuff like that, and so. And that song was written, on New Year's. That song was written on like as kind of a New Year's song. And I remember watching a very moving experience this past New Year for me, because I don't know if you remember where you were at this New Year, but like when midnight hit, and I went outside and I watched, I'm in the middle of the city and I just watched the fireworks going off all around me. It felt like there were more fireworks, first off, just people lighting them off just in their backyards and stuff everywhere. But I just heard screams. Like it almost felt like this animalistic, just screams from every corner of the city, just people just cheering on these fireworks in a way that it hadn't felt. People were just, I started crying. I had tears in my eyes. I was just weeping as I was watching all this and just thinking about the previous year and thinking about the previous couple of years. And it felt like this moment of hope. And it wasn't just that it was the new year, because these are just arbitrary dates and arbitrary things that we come up with. But like the reason we come up with these arbitrary things is we need to put a notch that we're still here. We need to kind of carve a notch into the bed frame to say, like, another year's gone by. We're still here. We're still making it work. We're still figuring it out. We're going to keep doing it. And I just really felt that in the moment. And then I wrote that song. That's the last song on the album, because I was really just feeling that hard over the course of this couple of days. It was very, very climactic New Year for me in a way that no New Year has felt in my lifetime. You know, like we had vaccines going out. This monster was no longer in office in the United States, you know, or he was, well, actually at the time he was still in office. We were kind of unsure whether we were going to be able to actually get him out of there or not. And then the Capitol riot happened a few days later.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But like, you know, there was hope, but there was still fear. You know, there was all this fear underlying it, but there was hope on top of that, you know? And so, yeah. It's, I'm glad for you to say that it's a more hopeful record. I think in some ways, like, I sent it to my father-in-law and to listen to, and he told me he was like in a dark place when he first listened to the first half of the album. And he was like, I had to kind of stop halfway through and then I had to revisit it. And he's like, I'm glad that I listened to the whole way through and listened to the end of it, because he's like, by the end, it's very, you know, like you can see like what you're going for there. But if you just listen to the first half of it, it's very dark. And so, like,
which I guess is kind of like 2020 in a way. I suppose if you'd only looked at it from sort of, you know, when did everything sort of go to, well, probably pre-2020 is when everything went to shit. But if you sort of look at it from sort of February, March until September, November time, you'd think it was, you know, the literal end of days. But that little bit just sort of, it's bookending the year into 2021, aside from obviously, you know, the fact that, you know, it's going to be a gradual thing, but there was that, as you say, that final spark that actually things might be improving, and any improvement, when everything is so low, any improvement is going to feel like a win. And yeah, I think that reflects in sort of, you know, the attitude and the mood going through the album. And yeah, I mean, personally and selfishly, even though as the world ends, the world opens up. Hopefully the world's not ending, but as the world opens up, I hope that you do carry on making Anxiety Cat records in this way, because I feel like it does sort of capture the zeitgeist and the mood of the world in such a creative way. And I would just love to see your interpretation of things as things go on. Yeah, thanks. I hope that honestly, I'd like to do it with some other people at some point in the future once we're able to do that stuff. I mean, I'm excited to be up in Minnesota because I got a lot of friends up there who are musicians, and like one of my main connection to Minneapolis, St. Paul, that area, is through music. Like, we used to tour through there all the time and spend, you know, I've recorded albums in Minneapolis and stuff like that. And got a lot of people I know and friends up there that are
that play music. And so I hopefully like to do it with some other people as well. Because, while it's all well and good to kind of sit down and with your cat in front of a computer and record stuff, it's in some ways kind of missing that human connection a little bit in doing that. But that's nice of you to say. I think, I don't know. We'll see what happens with it.
Absolutely.
If it's not anxiety cat, it'll be something else. Do something else.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, speaking of Minneapolis, what is sort of the live music situation your way at the moment? Have live shows started up at all? Is that still on the horizon? What's the deal?
Kind of on the horizon, as far as I understand. Well, so every state's different. This is one of the frustrating things and positive things about the United States, because on the one hand, the fact that we have these 50 different states that they've got their own governments. They're like their own little countries, and we do have this federal thing connecting it to a degree, but really states can almost operate with their own autonomy in a way that it makes it so that during the Trump era, it limits his damage in some ways. But then also it makes it so that these really conservative, shitty governments, state governments at least, can do whatever they want. And so in places like Florida and Texas, for example, they opened up 6 months ago, and they've been doing stuff, and their COVID rates go up every time they do it, and a bunch of fucking people die as a result. A bunch of people end up in hospitals, and then some of the places like Minnesota, they've been very strict about their lockdown procedures. And I just read that Minnesota did lift their statewide mask mandate this past week, a couple of days ago, and I don't know whether that is going to apply to live shows being able to happen or not. Here in New Orleans, where I'm currently at, shows have been happening, outside shows, outdoor shows have been happening with limited capacity. I don't think any of the indoor clubs have really been operating. Honestly, Tom, I don't really know. If I'm honest, I think maybe some of them have opened up, and I'm not aware of it because I don't really go out. But I do know that some states have been doing stuff for a long time. Some of them haven't. The live shows, the festivals and things like that typically happen in the summer, have been selling tickets. Fest, for example, in Gainesville, I know they're planning on doing that. That's a big punk fest that happens every year in Florida. They're still planning on doing that, but that's not till October. And I know there's some July and August festivals that are slated to happen. And so, barring a huge increase in COVID infection rates or some weird thing happening, I would imagine it probably does start opening up and shows do start happening. How about over there? You guys have anything yet, or has anything opened up yet?
It's tricky. Well, allegedly, all of our restrictions are meant to end at the end of this month. I don't believe that's going to happen for a second. There's definitely live shows that are booked in for sort of next month onwards, but naturally they're all British bands because we can't bring in any bands from overseas at the moment because of travel restrictions and everything. The thing that sucks I know it makes sense on paper, but it sucks for people like me, is that the way that they've rolled out the vaccine in the UK is by age, and so they've been going down from sort of really vulnerable people in sort of 80 plus all the way down, and we're still at 30 and above. So I'm 25. So I've still not had any vaccine, as much as I would love to have one.
Oh no, that sucks.
But it's just, they're doing it in that way to make sure that, the people who are at risk of getting the worst are gonna have priority. But yeah, hopefully, I'm hoping it soon they'll just sort of cut the dates and just be like, everyone who wants it, just go and book it now and just get yourself done. I presume, have you had both? Have you had one? How have you had your vaccine?
Yeah, we've had both. We were able to get a little sooner than other people because we're teachers, and so teachers were given priority for that stuff. But I mean, it's been actually a while since they've opened it up to everyone in the United States. Like they've, anybody that wants it can get it now. There's enough vaccines for everybody that wants it. And most of my friends, including people in their 20s, have been able to at least get one shot, if not two, at this point. It's actually surprising to me that the UK hasn't opened it up to everyone. Why? Because do they not have enough vaccines for everyone, or what's the deal?
I think so. I think that is the thing, is that they're trying to sort of manage the supplies so that there's like a steady stream of, so there's not sort of like a mad rush, then they have to stop for a while and then they do the mad rush. So yeah, I mean, I don't know the full ins and outs and all the logistics of it all and everything, but yeah, that's the thing. The one thing I'm hoping, which there is sort of growing pressure, is that we start slowing down our particularly giving people the second shot over here and start giving more overseas to the third world and other countries that aren't so far along, because ultimately, even if you sort of take the humanitarian argument aside for one moment, which is obviously the most important side of things, even from a selfish perspective, until everyone is vaccinated around the world will not get back to normal, even for us. So it's in our interest as well to get everyone vaccinated. So yeah, a lot of people are pushing for saying, well, let us get one, because that gives you like 70% protection or something like that. Then just give some out, delay it here for a few weeks, and then hopefully the world will get back to normal. But I don't know. You rest assured though, as soon as I get that text or that email saying, Tom, you can go for your vaccination, I am going to be there in a heartbeat. Whatever be damned, I am desperate to have the magic juice, because I think someone said online, I can't remember if it was a meme or someone was quoted saying it, but they said the vaccine is the gateway drug to concerts or something like that, and that's the way to look at it. So yeah,
and life in general. I mean, so the NHS is what you call your health system, right? It's the national health system.
Service,
in my conception of the NHS is that it's a very functional, very positive, like it's universal. Everybody has access to it, right?
Yep.
How have they handled everything, do you think? Have they been doing okay, or kind of a mixed bag?
They are the actual NHS themselves are saints. They are truly the best of us. And I mean, all of the doctors, nurses, all the staff that are doing it are doing the best. The problem is that we have obviously the Conservative government over here at the moment with like Boris Johnson and everything. And although they will never outright say it, it's very much their MO to just privatize everything. And so there's been like more and more cuts, and they are basically working on a shoestring budget a lot of the time. But the fact that they're still managing to sort of keep the lights on and like do the best they can, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. And they're saying that like, the vaccine rollout here, because although, the younger people haven't been able to get the shot yet, it's still been one of the most sort of like well planned out, most effective rollouts of a vaccine in modern history. And yeah, I mean, the NHS, I mean, if we lost that, I think we'd lose like a huge chunk of our national identity, because it's something that, I mean, it's the one thing, as much as, I've been to America, I went to California, which is probably not the best representation of the whole of America, but, and I loved it. But the one reason that I would always sort of, probably stay in the UK rather than emigrate is the NHS, rather than sort of privatized insurance-based healthcare, because...
Well, yeah. I mean, because you get sick, here comes your $1 million bill if you can even get treated in the first place. I mean, yeah, it's very frustrating. I've always been super jealous of any place that has a universal healthcare system like you guys do, like Canada does. And actually, I hadn't thought of that the NHS and Boris Johnson are probably butting heads a lot over this, aren't they?
Yeah.
He's probably sticking his finger in the pudding and screwing things up, isn't he?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
That's too bad. Yeah, this is one of the so the US and Canada have been kind of, this is an issue with us having all these vaccines, as we're kind of hoarding these vaccines, aren't we, over here? And like you say, we got to get these things to some of the countries that can't afford to manufacture it on their own, can't afford to buy it in mass like they did in Canada. Like I know Justin Trudeau, his government like bought some huge amount, like something like where they could vaccinate every Canadian 3 times over.
Wow.
And everyone's like, what are you going to do with that? And he's like, well, we're going to give them to third world countries once we get all our people vaccinated. But from what I understand, they haven't yet. They haven't done it. They're just still kind of holding on to it. And I wonder if part of it is just that they don't know like where to send it and how to send it, because, you know, you need these deep freeze facilities in order to be able to. So, yeah, it's still a mess. I mean, the pandemic is still here. It's still a huge mess, and it's still a huge issue. And yeah, I mean, we have probably about as many people who are going to get vaccinated in the United States probably have been vaccinated at this point. And that's a sad and sorry state of affairs to say that, like, we're not, you know, I mean, like it's a decent amount, but like you got plenty of people who just aren't going to do it. And the most recent push that Biden is doing is he's trying to get the Black community to get vaccinated more, because that's one area that there's a lot of folks who are very hesitant to get anything from the government for perfectly good reason. I mean, we have a history of, the U.S. government doing really screwed up things to Black Americans. Like we have this famous thing called the Tuskegee experiments, where they were doing experiments on, just Black soldiers and citizens without their knowledge. And so there's a lot of fear there. But one thing that I just heard on the radio that his administration's doing is they're doing like outreach via barbershops, where they're making the different which is, a cultural center for certain people, for some people, like it's like where you go to talk to people. And so they're making the vaccines available through barbershops, and they're doing outreach through them. And so maybe that'll be successful. But beyond that, like if they're able to maybe increase vaccination percentages within the Black community, maybe that'll slightly increase the percentage. But beyond that, I don't know that we're going to increase our numbers much more than where they're at right now. And so, yeah, we need to start just giving them to some other places,
Absolutely.
Getting them to other spots.
100%. I mean, it's exactly the same situation over here, that not just within the Black communities, but a lot of ethnic minority groups. There is a lot of distrust among them towards the government, to the point where they've had to get prominent figures, celebrities, musicians of different ethnic backgrounds to basically be spokespeople to say, listen, these things work, because they won't trust the government. And quite rightly so, because they have proven to be liars time and time again. Funnily enough, I don't know, did we mention Dominic Cummings last time, or is that a name that you know? Basically, he is kind of Boris Johnson's spin doctor, or was. He was he was his not a politician, but basically his advisor, and they left in very sort of explosive fallout circumstances at the end of last year. And very recently, and I think it was last week, this Dominic Cummings did was at a hearing where he effectively said that the government have been lying to everyone at time and time again, and through Boris Johnson, through all of these other ones, under the bus as much as he could, and there's going to be some huge fallout from all of this, because these hearings are going to go on for a few more weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is some, there is some fallout on Boris and his cronies in the next few weeks. So if you're tuned into BBC, definitely check it out. But
so he's kind of the propaganda minister. He was, in a way, unofficially speaking. He was he was almost the Giuliani to Trump, who was like he wasn't officially part of the government, but he was the mouthpiece, basically. So who's this Dominic Cummings?
Dominic Cummings, yeah, he was. Okay. I mean, as much as it's kind of like that. The enemy of my enemy is my friend situation, where he's throwing Boris and all these other people under the bus, but he is still himself a scumbag. He's a scumbag as well, but because he's doing. He's still effectively getting the bad guys. I'm like, all right, you do your thing.
Don't get your hopes up here, though, because we had this happened with Trump so much where people would have fallout with Trump, and then we'd be like, okay, well, Trump's former lawyer is gonna spill the beans, and it's finally gonna get him. Nothing could touch the guy. Like, it didn't matter what they threw at him. It was like people would throw stuff at him. So if Boris Johnson was paying attention to how Trump played it, he would have learned that all you have to do in 2020, 2021 is ignore it, pretend it's not a thing, and just, say, nah, didn't happen like that, and then just like change the subject and, create some chaos, and people get outraged about something you've said, and then they'll think about that instead of what the actual issue is. So, I hope that doesn't happen in your case, but that's what kept happening here is that like we'd be like, oh, this will be the end of, this is going to bring him down. This is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. We've got Stormy Daniels, some porn star who says she slept with Trump and he lied about this, and he's, Trump's lawyer is now talking to the FBI, and none of it stuck, So I don't know.
I mean, he's he was openly recorded as saying that he is, sexually assaulted women, like weeks before the actual 2016 elections, and he still got it.
Elected.
Yeah. Oh, when you can do that, I suppose you feel like you're bulletproof. But Jesus Christ, good job he's gone. Now it's up to us over in the UK to get our blonde dickhead out as well. So
take care of it. Take care of Johnson. Get that guy out of there. But what's interesting though. This is a lesson that we should take from it. And we haven't talked about this yet, which is how easy it was to shut Trump up after he wasn't in office anymore by taking away his Twitter. Like I haven't heard from the guy since he left office because we pressed mute. It was like we pressed a mute button on Twitter. We took his Twitter away. You don't hear about him anymore. So I wonder if you could do that with a lot of these people. If we just, if there's a way to just press the mute button on some of these very, bombastic people. I don't know if it works the same way with, does Boris Johnson use Twitter?
not so much. Unfortunately, I think there's just so many right-wing people over here that it's just, the regular press conferences and everything like that is enough to rile them up. But I have been enjoying because I consume a lot of American news to my shame, because a lot of it is just madness. But it's been so fun because there's people like Dan Bongino and all these other ones getting deplatformed as well, who are like all these right-wing nutcase talking head people. And even like My Pillow, the guy who runs the My Pillow company,
the Minnesotan.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember his name now.
I forget too. Yeah, I know you're talking about that.
Yeah, he's like full QAnon and just mad now. Oh yeah, and like they took Parler offline and everything, and that shut up a lot of them. The one I'm hoping they'll get next is that Matt Gaetz. Is he Florida?
That's an interesting one. Yeah, So when the QAnon stuff started coming out, in fact, I was talking with my buddy about this recently. Like when the QAnon stuff started coming out, and from the conservative side of things, they were saying, well, there's the liberals have a bunch of pedophiles, and they had this like crazy conspiracy. We were talking about it, and we're like, you know what? Like, did you think when you heard that was coming out, were you thinking they're covering something up on their end, aren't they? That's what's going on here. Like, this is just classic propaganda, where it's like you seed the airwaves with something you're worried that you're going to get caught with, so that when it comes out, you can be like, nah, that's the other side. This has already happened on the other side. Now they're just trying to get us. And he was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when that came out. And then the Gates stuff started coming out, and it almost like matches up with a lot of the like QAnon, like weird shit that they were like all this, but there's actually evidence of it in this case. And they're like, the FBI has been investigating it, and, it's been this international, there's just so much information that's coming out of the Gates thing that I'm like, oh, all this stuff that he's been very vociferously, kind of like trying to sling mud in other directions. It's all stuff that he was doing. And like, it's all stuff that it's almost like he knew that this was going to come out eventually. So his way of dealing with it was to like, trying to be like, yeah, it wasn't me. It was them before it came out, so that when it came out, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too conspiracy theorist here, but like it's crazy, the Gates stuff. I mean, like he's got like, how long has that been going on? It's been going on since he was like a Florida state senator, and they've been like, flying underage, girls to different places to have sex with and Venmoing them money. And like, what the fuck?
It's so gross.
Wrong with these people? How do they not think they're going to get caught in the contemporary era? Like where just like, there's nothing private anymore. If you think you can hide that kind of thing, you can.
And if you're going to try and hide it, don't use Venmo and then just have it all publicly accessible. Apparently, he was even like showing pictures of these girls that he's been sleeping with in the Capitol building floor, and it's like. I mean, all I can think of is that he was expecting Trump to get reelected and he'd get instantly pardoned, and that's not gonna fly now. So I really hope him and that Marjorie Taylor, whatever her name is both sweating, because I'm sure she's got skeletons in her closet as well.
I hope so. I don't know how it affects though your average person anymore, because like the thing is the people who have been brainwashed by it, it's hard. Like, how do we disconnect whatever is going on in their brains right now at this point? Like, how do you reconnect them with reality? How do you get them back? Because it's almost like it doesn't matter if Marjorie Taylor Greene goes down, or if Matt Gaetz go down, or Trump goes down. It's like there was an article I just read this morning about some studies they did on how disinformation affects a person's mind, in that like it doesn't matter, like after a certain point, it doesn't matter how many facts they're given. They're just going to, they're going to believe whatever they want to believe. And you just dig your heels in the sand. And it's like, how do you,
it's a cult of personality. It's truly terrifying. And yeah, I mean, there is no easy answer. I mean, playing storm transmissions is probably a good starting point, but yeah, it's gonna be an interesting another year, that's for sure. But I want to end on something lighter. I have to say, I've noticed your t-shirt has Dalek on it. Always happy to talk Doctor Who.
I got my Doctor Who shirt on. Yeah. I mean my Doctor Who.
My name is literally Tom Baker, so I was, there was no way I couldn't be a Doctor Who fan. So I have to ask, who is your favorite Doctor Who actor? Who is your favorite Doctor?
Well, Matt Smith is the one that got me into it. To begin with, he's very charming. I like him a lot. But God, David Tennant is so good, and I love the new one too. What's her name? I'm blanking out on her name. But I like her. I don't know. I like them all, Tom. I mean, I like them all. Like I've been on a David Tennant kick though recently a lot. So I'll go with David Tennant, because, by the way, have you seen Staged? Have you watched that yet? Do you know what that is?
It's the thing he did with what's his name? Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen.
Yeah,
it's like a pandemic like Zoom show, and we just started watching it a couple of days ago. It's so good. You're gonna love it. Yeah, I'll say David Tennant. Who's yours?
I mean, old school. It has to be the actor Tom Baker, because he has the same name as me. But the one that I started watching it was Christopher Eccleston before David Tennant, and I loved him. Although he only did one series, I loved him because he was kind of that edgier, grittier version of the Doctor. Rather than sort of obviously he still had the quips and the one-liners, but if he needed to get his hands dirty, he would get his hands dirty. But I remember the David Tennant stories the most fondly. I watched a lot of the Matt Smith one. I kind of fell off when Peter Capaldi started doing it after him. But I've been watching some of the new ones, and they've been really good as well. But man, I love Doctor Who. It's so good. I remember it when I was a kid, and even now
it's such
so
a
good.
British export. I love that it's like such a. So it's, first off, it's such a cultural phenomenon, but like. It's so hopeful. It's kind of like in the same way that Star Trek gives me hope for the future, in that like it's all about the goodness of humanity ultimately. Like Doctor Who believes that humans are inherently good and wants to like fight for humanity. Like I love that about that. Those are the stories we need in present day Earth.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it all works in sort of, as you say, this sort of like cultural exchange, because you've got the Doctor Who t-shirt on, and I don't know if this is going to show up. I've got the Star Trek tattoo. So
yes, I love it. Okay. Well, then let me ask you, who's your favorite Star Trek character?
I mean, there is a story behind the tattoo that answers that. It has to be Kirk with William Shatner, because it was actually William Shatner who told me to get the tattoo. I met him at Comic-Con about 3 years ago, and I've got like, you know, tattoos on my arm already and everything like that. And he was like, "Oh, let me take a look at your tattoos." And so he like was looking at stuff. He says, "But I see no Star Trek tattoo." And I was like, "I'll make sure that's the next one." He goes, "See that you do." And then like signed, because I got him to sign my copy of, I bought one of his old spoken word albums on vinyl, and he signed my album. And like I was like, well, Captain Kirk told me to get a tattoo, so I've got to get a tattoo now.
You better damn well do it.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's going to show up on the camera, but no, there's Shatner.
Oh, I can kind of see him. He's phasing in and out. I can see him.
Where's me? There I am. I am. Yeah, we shared a laugh, we shared a photo, and it was a grand time. So yeah, that's why I have a Star Trek tattoo, because William Shatner told me to. So
you know what? Science fiction will save us.
It will.
It will.
Absolutely.
Man.
That is a message that is good enough as any to end on. So Rob, thank you so much again for your time today. It is always a pleasure chatting to you, and I cannot wait for June the 3rd, 2022, so that we can do it again, although I'm hoping that it will be sooner.
In person.
That's it. It'll be a nice warm summer day in Minnesota, and we will have a great time. But until then,
take you out on the lake. We'll go canoeing, and we'll do an interview out on one of the lakes there. How about that?
That sounds amazing. I wouldn't want anything more than that. But until that time, where can people find you online if they want to check out your stuff?
My website's hairpond.org, and the Anxiety Cat stuff is at Bandcamp, anxietycat.bandcamp.com. That's where that's at.
Well, I will definitely be pre-ordering, or ordering, should I say, my cassette tomorrow, because it's Bandcamp Friday, and that's about it. Rob, thanks again, and I'm sure I will speak to you sometime down the line.
Awesome, I appreciate you, Tom. You look great. It's great to hear from you. So, looking forward to next year, man.
Can't wait.